Finally done with work, so how about I wind a little bit with a game before I call it a day? Maybe some Monster Hunter World? I think I got all the weapons I need for now. Maybe a little bit of Final Fantasy XIV, but then again I'm really not in the mood to grind out for some extra levels of gear. Perhaps I should finally get to start playing Octopath Traveler that's been collecting dust in my collection. For that I guess I can play more Xenoblade since it at least has Elma in it. Well, I guess it looks like it's time for me to do another playthrough on Metroid Prime 2 for the 100th time, because why play new games when I can just keep replaying this one for years on end? Am I right? Wait a minute, that's right, this game had a multiplayer mode. Man, I haven't tried this in ages. Come to think of it. Hey Crocomire, you wanna play a couple rounds with me?
Wait, no, not yet. I gotta go finish my assignments for Space College.
The Nintendo GameCube might have not been the biggest selling console of its time, but man did it have such a great library with one great game after another. And some of them having stellar gameplay and visuals that still manage to stand the test of time to this day. Also, this is the last time us here in the West got to see a new F-Zero game, so how about we just reboot the series at this point, Nintendo? But one thing that has always surprised me since I was a small, impressionable young Metroid boy was the fact that almost every first-party title this console came with had a multiplayer feature of sorts, which also made it an awesome system to have if you had any siblings who remotely liked video games. I'm talking games like Star Fox Assault, Pikmin 2, Custom Robo, Mario Strikers, Kirby's Air Ride, Zelda 4 Swords and Wind Waker if you had the money lying around to spare, and heck, even Metroid Prime 2 wasn't able to escape the GameCube's multiplayer craze. And it's funny when you consider that while Prime 2 still remains my favorite game in the series up until now, I really don't have any fond memories of its multiplayer feature. Now, this isn't because I thought the modes sucked back in the day, but more that I was never able to play the game with friends since we spent the day playing stuff like Soul Calibur 2 or Mario Kart Double Dash when we weren't playing with our Bionicles. And instead, I had to play this game alone with my then baby brother, who, to say the least, was absolutely terrified of this game. So, since it's been a while since I have ever played this, how about I take a look at the Versus mode and see how it's aged over the years? Well, first things first, I think I should clarify that the footage you're going to see in this video will be from the Prime TRILOGY version, and the mere difference stems from the controller you used to play the game, with the Wii version having free aim implemented into it. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to assume we're playing this on the GameCube version instead. So, Metroid Prime with a multiplayer mode. Yeah, on paper that sounds like a great addition for the sequel of the game that pretty much reignited life into what was once a dead franchise collecting dust under Nintendo's furniture. But it makes me wonder, how did Metroid fans initially react to the idea of having a versus shooter mode on their game? I can't say for sure what was the general consensus since at the time I was just but a wee boy discovering what the internet was, but I can't imagine that if something like this or Prime Hunters multiplayer were announced today, some fans would probably be quick to show some backlash against the idea on the fear that Nintendo would want to turn their exploration-driven game into yet another online sci-fi shooter. But fortunately for Metroid fans, this mode was never the main focus of the development team when it came time to make the actual game. This doesn't necessarily mean the feature was a complete afterthought or a tacked-on experience, but it's nice to know that the fellows at Retro Studios were focused more on delivering a prominent sequel to their groundbreaking masterpiece than just following along with the popular trends at the time. And to be honest, it's a great thing they focused on the single player instead, because Echoes' Versus mode really leaves a lot to be desired when compared to other shooters. But as a standalone bonus mode for the game, it was a serviceable distraction. As you can probably tell by now, Prime 2's extra feature is something similar to what you might expect out of your traditional first-person shooter. See who can rack up the highest amount of kills under a specific amount of time. But see, there is one key problem with this mode that really detracts from its replayability, and that is the game's controls. The thing is that the GameCube control really wasn't made for first-person shooters on the account of having a much smaller secondary analog stick in comparison to what you find in other controllers. So instead of being able to move your character with one stick and aim your weapon using the other, Metroid Prime instead just copy and pasted the controls from its single player campaign, which are more aligned with, say, tank controls, which are great and feel natural for the adventure that the story mode provides since the game was built around these limitations, but it doesn't feel at home in a frantic shooter of sorts. This is especially noticeable when you consider that in the GameCube version, firefights were just two players frantically jumping in circles around each other, since the only viable way to hit your target effectively was by locking onto them and then strafing around like a madman. And so lies what really is my biggest negative point with this versus mode. The controls are natural and easy to manage in the hands of a seasoned player, but are complete cumbersome experience to newcomers who have to factor in not only Samus's ability to turn into a ball, but also all the extra hazards and power-ups the multiplayer mode has to offer on its maps. The other small disappointment is that you don't really get much out of choices for playable characters or customizations, since all you can play as are different color swaps of the base of various suits. I guess there is more than one suit lying around in the galaxy because bird magic, I suppose. But fortunately, however, this was changed later on in Metroid Prime Hunters with its extra characters and modes, but I will go into more detail about that game's multiplayer mode on a separate video. Unlike other traditional shooters, the maps that you get to play in this game have a variety of different hazards and obstacles that do help out in giving some extra level of detail, while at the same time adding an extra layer to the combat with secrets and items that feel more at home with the Metroid series. Echoes offers two general game modes. There is your traditional deathmatch, where, as I mentioned, the player with the most kills at the end is declared the winner, but there's also a secondary bounty mode which tries to throw in a new twist into the scene by drawing some inspiration from Samus's profession as a bounty hunter. Bounty mode has players start with a set amount of coins, with the objective being to collect the most out of them by the end of the match, with the only way to collect more coins being by breaking these chests found lying around on the maps, or by defeating opposing players to steal their points. From the two modes, I can't deny that your regular deathmatch is by far the better option. It's like comparing playing Smash Bros. In a time stock mode with playing the game in, well, coin mode. One is clearly a gimmick mode that you play in occasion while drinking with your friends. So, besides the issues the controllers might bring, I have to say that the rest of the multiplayer is actually a pretty solid experience, all things considered. Instead of having different weapons like a shotgun or a sniper rifle, you instead can collect the different beam upgrades with their special abilities brought over from the base game and all, and each player is equipped with other power-ups like the Morph Ball, Boost Ball, Gravity Booster, Grapple Beam, Spiral Ball, and Dark Visor to have plenty of options on how to traverse or hide in the environments. In fact, scattered around the maps are also some other more powerful weapons like the Super Missiles, Annihilator Beam, or the Power Bomb that can give you a temporary extra edge in combat, alongside some unique abilities you can get from these randomizer stations that are lying around in each battlefield. These include things like unlimited ammo or missiles, a short period where you deal extra damage, temporal invincibility, being able to hack onto enemy suits, becoming invisible for a short period of time, or even the dreaded Death Ball, though while slow, it has the power to destroy anything that it comes into contact with. The maps where you fight also have their own unique hazards like poisonous water, stationary turrets, or kinetic orb launchers, and these battlefields are based on some of the areas that you get to explore in the first two Prime games. Crossfire Chaos is based on Agon Wastes, Shooting Gallery resembles the Chozo Ruins, the Spider Complex is based around Phazon Mines, Pipeline is a fusion between the pirate bases in Phendrana Drifts with the underwater sections of Torvus Bog, Spires is a mix between the Great Temple where you meet Umos and the Sanctuary Fortress, and Sidehopper Station is based around the space pirate frigate Orpheon, which, needless to say, is my personal favorite for obvious reasons. On top of this, players could also choose from a variety of different songs to play in the background while they fight, which help making each combat feel different in some way and are obviously taken from the main game. Pirate Fear is the song that plays after defeating a group of space pirates, Luminov is the theme you hear in the temple grounds, Torvus Bog and Sanctuary simply replay the songs from their respective locations, Dark Echoes is a variant of the main menu and credits theme of the game, and Darkness is the song that plays during the battles against Dark Samus. The one unique song that came from this extra mode is the default theme known as Hunters, since it can't be heard anywhere else in the game, and it also made an appearance in Smash Bros. And a faster version of it will play when there is 1 minute remaining on the match, regardless of what song is currently playing on the background. All in all, even though it might not be the best shooter to control, and it was also a bit lacking when compared to what other games had to offer at the time, I can't deny that the Versus mode for Metroid Prime 2 is a fun little distraction to add alongside its epic campaign. And if anything, it also made this game a little bit more memorable for some players. It was generally a feature that made me excited to play the game months before its release, and I guess if I had the right group of friends while growing up, it could have brought me with a lot of hours of fun, just like Federation Force or Prime Hunters managed to do some years later. So, should this feature make a return in a future Metroid game? In my personal opinion, I don't think it should be something that Nintendo should focus its resources on. But if the main game lives up to the standards left by the original trilogy, then I won't mind seeing this included for a fun novelty. I guess on the plus side, it could also work like Nintendo's first-party shooter to promote their online services, although part of me says that we already have Splatoon covering that area well enough. For being the first go at giving the Metroid series a side mode distraction, I think that this Versus mode was an amazing first attempt, and one that was fortunately enhanced and explored a lot deeper with its sequel on the DS. It's nothing spectacular or groundbreaking, and it paled in comparison to other shooters, but I'm at least happy that some of the elements of its source material were able to make the transition into the multiplayer and gave the Metroid series its own unique image on the popular shooter scene.